Welcome to St Cat's Chats, the official podcast of St Catherine's British School in Athens. Each episode, we sit down with guests from our community and beyond to explore the role education has played in their lives, the impact of the school values of care, dedication, curiosity and integrity, as well as the intellectual and academic lessons that St Catherine's brings to life. Thank you for joining us.
We recently had the honour and the opportunity to welcome Dr. George Nakos to St Catherine's. A psychologist and officer in the Cybercrime division of the Hellenic Police, Dr. Nakos spoke to parents and the students about cyber safety and joined us for this special episode of St Cat's Chats to bring this very important information to you. So, a really warm welcome to this episode of St Cat's Chats, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Dr. Nakos. And one of an expert. So I'm going to let you say a little bit about you rather than me introduce you. So maybe can you just tell us what your job is at the moment and what your particular interest is?
Thank you so much for the invite. We're more than happy to do this kind of presentations and this kind of podcast to any kind of school that they are inviting us to talk not only to teachers, but to parents and students as well. A little bit about my background. I studied in England. I studied my bachelor's degree in psychology at the University of Essex. My first master's was in cognitive neuropsychology. Then I decided to follow a different path, and my second master's was in City University, occupational psychology, working a little bit on the HR, let's say, departments and the HR field, because organizational psychology was a new field a couple of years ago. But coming back to Athens, because I studied and worked for many years in London, over 10 years, I decided to do a PhD in psychology. And at that time, there was an opening in the University of, now it's called Citizen Protection, in the Ministry of Citizen Protection. And there was an opening for psychologists regarding to the personnel and the families.
Oh, okay.
Starting with the psychology of police officers, and has to do with stress management, trauma-related issues, interventions and crime prevention. I started to have a keen interest on cyber psychology.
Okay.
And my third master's was in health informatics, so to have a background in computer science, where with my kind of background, I was able to apply and work in the cybercrime division, and I'm currently almost 10 years.
Amazing. Great. Well, what a wonderful career you've had so far. As ever, when I'm meeting impressive people like you, I just wonder what I've been doing with my time. But thank you so much indeed. I can't believe you left the delights of Essex to go to London. I can't quite believe it. Good old Colchester.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe thinking about when you were a bit younger, maybe when you were a teenager, had you ever thought about this was a field that you were interested in or wanted to get into? You always had an interest in people's personality or how people interact. Has it always been an interest for you?
Yes. Looking at the behavior of every individual, trying to analyze his behavioral patterns and see what kind of personality I have up against, it was always intriguing from mine. And that's one of the reasons that I followed psychology and clinical psychology. But I'm not going to say how many years ago, but
yeah.
when I was in the University of Essex, Facebook just started to appear.
Okay.
So everything was just for to talk with people that you hadn't seen for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's say 20 years later, you've seen how social media has affected our daily life.
Yeah.
And another thing that I want to add regarding cyber psychology, which is a new field, regarding my current job description, it's not only providing psychological support to police officers. However, in our cybercrime division, which is in Alexandras Avenue 173, we have an open door policy. That means that a lot of people, and especially children, are afraid to approach the police. So when when their parents saying, let's go to the police to see what happened, the first thing is forget about it.
Yeah.
No. So we do have an open door policy, meaning that on a daily basis, 24/7, 365 days per year. Anyone, either a child or an adult, can come and talk to us.
Great.
Because that's the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For us, the best thing is prevention. Not only discussing how many cases do we have and how do we solve them, is prevention. But in order to prevent something, you have to be aware of it. And in order to be aware of it, you have to discuss it and bring it out in the open.
Yeah, sure.
And
absolutely.
this is the issue of the current children nowadays. They're afraid to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're looking at the current sort of policies in certain countries around the world, I'm thinking particularly of Australia, where South Australia particularly having a ban on phones in schools, and that's been taken by the Australian government, the Greek government policy, and actually, if you look at the sort of fairly recent things from Greek government about phones in schools, I sort of look at the St Catherine's policy, and it's always been pretty similar. Not seen, not heard, for example, is ours. What do you think about those particular policies, about either having that sense of banning or education, or can they live side by side?
Okay. Let's take one thing at a time. So we're talking about banning. So banning smartphones, correct? Excellent. How do you think, the proper question would be, how much do you think a smartphone costs these current days?
Oh, it all depends which one you get, of course.
More or less.
I don't know, actually. €1,000?
The correct number is 0. And I'll explain why. Kids nowadays, and I'm not giving you ideas to the listeners, I'm just informing the parents.
Yeah.
How can a child has an access to the internet? Kids nowadays, they only want smartphones, not mobiles.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if my old smartphone is smashed or cracked, as long as I have internet access.
Yeah.
So that means, let's say you ban it. Do you believe that if a child wants to do something, he or she, it's not going to do it? Of course not. She or he will find definitely a way.
Of course.
So the thing is that regardless the banning, and we can talk about if it's right or wrong, it's all about the communication. So if a child wants to do something, the child will find the way to do it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and I suppose that ties into that sort of teenage risk in terms of that sort of biological processes happening in the brain, that chemical imbalance when they're a teenager, that sense of taking that risk. They might not know why they're taking it, but they take it anyway.
Before talking about banning, we have to see what kind of syndromes kids these days are suffering. And when I'm saying suffering, don't take it the wrong way. So teenagers these days have the following syndrome. The one that everybody knows is FOMO. It's fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you ban me from the social media, I will try to find a way to be part of what is going on online.
Yeah.
Because whether we like it or not, these days our children have 2 lives. The normal life, the daily life, and the digital life. Unfortunately, their mind is always on what's happening online. So FOMO, fear of missing out, is always wanting to be aware of what's happening. Because if I'm not aware of what's happening, then the second syndrome it's going to follow, which is called phoblo. Phoblo is fear of being left out. Meaning that if you're not aware of what's happening, you're not going to be part of what's happening. So it's not whether they want to have social media or not. They want to feel that they belong somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's the motivation behind it. So even if you ban something, kids will find a way to go around it.
Yeah.
Now, whether the ban it should be allowed or not, it all depends on the age. One of the biggest problems the kids nowadays have is that they're lying about their personal data online.
Yeah.
So let's say you go to a sixth grade, a 7th grade, or let's talk about ages, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
And you ask them, how many kids, you go to a classroom, there are about 20, 25 students. How many do you think they're going to raise their hands that they have social media?
Yeah.
Almost the entire class. Why? Why kids under 13? Because that is the right age according to the European law in order to have social media. why do kids under 18 have social media?
Yeah.
Then we have the excuses. Yes, I don't have social media. I'm taking the phone of my mom's and my dad's, but you still have access. And you still are downloading games, you're playing games that they're not appropriate for your age.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also that sense, isn't it, of that sort of trying to get around those particular rules. I completely agree with you. Banning doesn't do anything particularly. I used to run a boarding house in the UK, and they used to get the boys to hand their phones in the evening, and of course they'd hand in a dummy phone, and they'd keep another one just tucked away.
See?
So they'll find whatever things around it. So if I can just maybe tie you down to give some of our listeners some tips. So maybe some sort of top tips for our parents. And of course, our parents are going to range from parents of children who are probably 3 or 4 up to parents who are sort of 18, and maybe even alumni parents as well. Maybe can you give some of our parents who have grown up maybe in a very different world, and what their children are facing is very different to what they experienced? What sort of tips maybe could you give some of our parents?
We are not here to judge any kind of parent. We're not here to tell if a parent is a bad parent or a good parent. There are no perfect parents.
Of course, yeah.
And the parents should bear in mind that each child is unique and individual. It has its own character and its own way of thinking. However, they have to remember the following. Children are going to mimic our behavior. So, first of all, parents have to set an example. If they're behaving the right way, the children will follow them. The second most important rule is not only communication, but quality in communication, meaning that children's lives are not only what they're doing during school. So most parents, even if our parents, when we went back to our house, the first question would be, is everything all right at school? Yes, okay, have a nice day.
What do you have for lunch?
Yes, do you have lunch?
Yeah.
No, they have to be aware what's going online. We're not talking about parenting, we're talking about digital parenting.
Yeah.
And unfortunately these days, the children are addressing their digital guardian, which is, who do you think children are asking questions these days?
Chat boxes.
That's going to happen in a few years, let's say next year.
Okay.
Currently, children are asking TikTok and other social media to give answers to their questions. So the children have to have their parent as, let's say, the first responder, the first person they're going to attend to if they have any problems, if they have any issues. Yeah. So the parent has to have a very good communication with the child. The parent should not be judgmental, should not criticize, and the parent should try and listen, active listening to what their child is saying. 9 out of 10 times it's going to be some unimportant stuff. But what's more important is the one thing that out of the 9 other non-important, it's going to be the most important. Yeah, because the child will be able to talk with the parent whatever's happening on their daily life. Now, when we're talking about 3-4 years old, I'll take you to the other end. So as a psychologist, I see on a daily basis parents, children, and even educators. The sooner we act on something, the better it's going to be. So we have to learn to cultivate this kind of knowledge and this kind of behaviors from the early ages. We shouldn't wait until 16, 17 and the child decides to talk to us about his private matters or what's worrying him on daily life. The child must be nurtured in order to understand that not everything online is true. The solutions are not online, but in real life. And you always have to address the people that you trust. And that is the parents and the teachers. And that's it. And when you have problems, then you will address to the police, where we are here to help in any case. Not to punish you, not to take away your phones, but to help you and prevent from any kind of danger that you may run into and you're not aware. Because when we do a lot of public speaking, we're not just demonstrating how many cases we have, we're just showing real case scenario without telling the age and the real names. This has happened with this kind of, let's say, online gaming on social media, and this is how you can prevent it.
Yeah, great. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think for a lot of parents it's quite scary, isn't it? That actually their teenager or whatever age their child is going through lots of issues and they're struggling a little bit. And as a parent myself, I'm absolutely really aware of that. And sometimes you feel powerless, I think, to what can I do to help my person to try and make those right decisions. And if there's any of our sort of teenagers listening as well, thank you very much, guys, for listening. What sort of maybe top tips, what maybe advice, in your experience, in your career, what advice would you give to that 14, 15-year-old in terms of this particular space?
Speak up. Whatever happens, learn to talk and learn to discuss your problems. Don't hide them away because it's going to be, we call it the avalanche syndrome, meaning that it's going to start very small and all of a sudden it's going to be huge. And then it's going to be very difficult to deal with it. Don't be afraid to talk to your parents because or the people who you trust. Sometimes when we talk with children, they say, yes, but they don't understand me. They don't know what I'm talking about. Fair enough. This is where it's up to you to teach them. Show them who are your influencers or your TikTokers or what kind of YouTube videos you're watching. Yeah. Discuss what do you like, what you don't like. Discuss with your parents. Try to make them understand. We're not trying to make your parents a TikToker or an influencer or a YouTuber. Don't worry about that. We're just trying to make him and her, the parents, aware of what's going on your social life. And since you mentioned my experience, one of my let's say duties that I have to perform, which is very unfortunate, is according to the Greek penal code. If there is a case with a minor, with an underage, he or she has to testify. Before it testifies to a police officer, there has to be a psychological expertise in order to see whether the child is eligible to testify. Okay. And I'm present during this testimony. Right. So almost in every case that I've been part of, the children usually admit to things. The first thing that they admit is that how come it happened to me that I thought I knew everything and I thought it would never happen to me. And the second thing, and the most important, is that if only my parents were a bit stricter, but were open to discussion in order for me to be able to feel safe and to be able to talk to them and to protect me. So for us, and we're talking about, when we're talking about the safety and security of the children and of the teenagers, if they have a common, if what they're hearing from school, from what they're hearing from the environment, and from what they're hearing in the society, they will know what is right and what is wrong. And we're not here to judge them. We're not here to tell them what to do. We're just here to let them know what we are facing, what we are up against, and how they can deal with these many things. And the reason why we're doing it is that they are the most important things that we have. They are our future. They are the future of this society, of this country, of our world. And that's why their future and their life is the most important thing for us, and that's why we're trying to protect them.
Fantastic, wonderful. Well, we're just going to end maybe in sort of to circle back to you, actually, and maybe if you can sort of look back as yourself as a 15-year-old, let's say what sort of advice would you give you as a 15-year-old in terms of thinking about your career, thinking about your experiences in lots of areas of your life? What advice would you give the 15-year-old you?
To be more open-minded, meaning that life, it's not only about our 15-year-olds. We didn't have social media. We just had a TV program, Channel 4, and ITV.
yeah, very true.
So try to learn the world, experience it either through athleticism, through trips. Try to enjoy life rather than think of what other people are thinking and what other people are doing. Don't compare yourself with others, and take your time. Nobody's rushing you. That's why in England we have the year off. meaning that take your time.
Yeah.
And if you take your time, then you will learn yourself and you will better enjoy life. And above all, try to have a threshold and a character in facing difficulties. If you ask for help or for guidance, it's not any wrongdoing. Everybody has facing difficult times and troubles, but try to enjoy life. And unfortunately, life these days is not what's happening online.
No.
What's happening in real life. That's the most important.
Thank you very much indeed. The programme Adolescence has been very big on Netflix, the wonderful Stephen Graham, and the fact, if you look at the cinematography of it, the fact it's all done in one shot, which is incredible from that particular sense. But obviously it's brought up a huge amount of issues, and it's been very popular and very much talked about. From your experience as a psychologist and in your professional life, what has been your take on the programme itself and the reaction to it?
Well, keep in mind that there have been dozens of films regarding the relationship with parents and children. So one great film to watch, which is a bit for teenagers, is that we need to talk about Kevin and the boy and many more. Adolescence reveals the reality of what's happening these days, meaning that parents are not aware of the digital culture. And what I'm saying, digital culture, we're not talking about Facebook and Instagram. We're talking about emojis. We're talking about rules and specific patterns. So we saw a family that theoretically didn't have any issues. However, if you see the TV series, you will see that the parents were seeing the signs and they didn't do anything about it. So what I would like, especially parents, to keep in mind, the signs are there. It's not going to happen from one day to the other. So pay close attention to what your child says and especially what your child doesn't say regarding his behavior. So when you're seeing mood swings, when you're seeing that all of a sudden 2 or 3 o'clock at night there's an open light, when you see he or she doesn't want to go to school, when there are changes in his behavioral pattern, then something is up. I'm not saying something's wrong, something is up. So with adolescents, there was a shock, especially for parents. They weren't aware of what's going on. For us, that we're in the cybercrime division, this kind of incidents and this kind of culture has been going on for many years. And I don't want to go into more details, but don't judge from the emojis or from specific keywords. There are other keywords as well in the TV show that there is a history behind them. However, next year or the following year, there might be a new digital platform, there might be a new game, there might be a new challenge, an online challenge. So the thing is that we shouldn't panic about, let's be able to know everything. No, the core and the essential issue remains the same. Be close to your children. You don't have to worry. And a lot of people are asking us, what is the best antivirus? What is the best firewall to have on our laptop? Communication. If you're able to communicate with your children, they will be able to open up and tell you what's going on in their life. And that's it. There is no magic spells. There's no magic wand. And it's not going to happen from one day to another. It needs time. It needs consistency. It needs continuity. And above all, you have to put some limits. We're not talking about to forbid yourself, to forbid your child from doing what else. But when we're talking about loving your children and showing them how you love them, you have to tell them. And if you love them with having boundaries, then the child will feel safe because the child will know that somebody not behind me, not above me, but next to me, is right there. If you don't set boundaries, and if you let loose your children to do whatever they want, they will feel that nobody cares about me and I can do whatever I want. You may be strict, but don't confuse being strict and with being cruel.
It
doesn't go along.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Great. Well, fantastic words of wisdom there. And obviously, hopefully reassurance for our parents. Not only there's fantastic advice and support from the police and that organisation, but of course from the school itself, whether that's a form tutor, head of year, wonderful Angelique and Sarah Finn, our counsellors. There's always someone to talk to.
And something else. Don't judge what other schools are doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't think that this school is doing that. Bear in mind you're in this school and you're responsible for what you're doing in this present environment. And leave what's happening to other schools, because we have a lot of incidents that are saying, at that school this happened and whatever. Let the police do their job. And worry about what's going on in the present and in your school. You have to be very happy to be able to go to a school that's very protective and provides this kind of everything that you're providing for the children.
Great. Super. Dr. Nakos, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Very, very much appreciate it. Thank you. Many thanks to Dr. George Nakos and the Cybercrime Division of the Hellenic Police, and to the Katerina Laskridis Foundation for bringing these important insights to the St Catherine's community. If you suspect that you or a loved one has been a victim of cybercrime, there's a lot of support here at school, from the staff to our wonderful counsellors. Also, please call 11188 here in Greece to get support from seasoned cybercrime experts.
Thank you for joining us on St Cat's Chats. We hope today's discussion has sparked new ideas and inspired you. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to follow the podcast and share it with others. Until next time, remember, at St Catherine's, we are a 3 to 103 school. You are always part of the St Catherine's family. One campus, one community.